Are you seeking fulfillment for your life? Do you want freedom from fear? That's why we're here. Welcome to Jesus 101, introducing you to the real Jesus. And now, here's your host, Elizabeth Talbot.
Welcome to Jesus 101. I am so glad you decided to join us for this very exciting series we are starting. This is our fourth series, and it's going to be on the book of Revelation. But it's going to be very different than any other seminar that you probably have heard on the book of Revelation. This particular series will focus on pictures of Jesus in Revelation. See, this book was given to a people that were distressed and troubled, and it's a book full of hope and full of worship and so flamboyant. And I wanted to share those pictures of Jesus with you so that you also can get hope and you also can get that mega joy of those worship scenes in the book of Revelation. We have called this series Revelation, the fifth gospel. As you know, we have done all the gospels before, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But this time, we're doing the fifth gospel. I call it the fifth gospel because it unveils another side of Jesus. Most of us are very used to the Jesus of the gospels, the suffering servant. Even in the last chapter, when we get the resurrection and we get a victorious Jesus, still, we haven't gotten the whole cosmic view of really what did he really achieve. And what did the universe think about that? So the word apocalypsis is actually an unveiling. It's as if I took the veil and I said, look, there is a crown behind the cross. This is actually the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And after the crown of thorns, actually, there is a real crown, because he's coming victorious. The Lamb is coming for us. And so this is going to be the unveiling of Jesus, the revelation of Jesus Christ. And there's so many pictures in the book of Revelation, and they are all so exciting that I don't think there's actually any book of the Bible that has so many pictures of Jesus. So let's see if we can start with the first one that we're going to do today, which is where he says that he is the Alpha and the Omega. We are going to see many different pictures of Jesus in the book of Revelation. But before we start with that, I want to tell you a story. When I was a little girl and my dad was a pastor, we used to have this story that he used to tell all the time. And I knew it by heart. I actually loved this story. It had to do with a little girl like me, I was about 5 years old, who loved a hero. And she followed the books of that hero. But there was one book, one time, that wasn't going very well. The hero was losing. The hero was getting, in trouble. And the little girl was getting so depressed in the middle of the book that she just couldn't wait. And I remember my dad preaching on this. And this was one of his stories that he started the sermons on the book of Revelation. And I want to tell you what this little girl did. She said, I can't stand this book. My hero is not winning like usually. So she stopped in the middle of the book and went all the way to the last chapter to see what happened to the hero. And you know what? The hero actually won. So now she could go back to the middle of the book and continue reading with great assurance. She could read and she wasn't worried anymore. You know why? Because now she knew the ending of the story. She knew now that her hero won. Well, this is what the book of Revelation is. The book of Revelation is actually the book that says, ta-da! Jesus wins. If you ever want to summarize the book of Revelation and you don't have scholarly words or academic words, don't forget this. Ta-da! Jesus wins is a great summary for the book of Revelation. All the history of redemption from Genesis to Revelation actually was coming to this last word of the Bible that reminds us that Jesus wins. So in this great view and the unveiling of Jesus and the victorious Jesus, we are going to find a lot of pictures of Jesus. So we'll see if the cameras can get the Alpha and the Omega. The Alpha and the Omega actually are the first two letters of the Greek alphabet. So if this book was written today, it would say, I am the A and the Z. I am the beginning of the alphabet, and I'm the end of the alphabet. As a matter of fact, Jesus would say, I'm every letter from the beginning to the end and all the letters in between. And you know what? I bet you, the viewer today, you don't have any problem that starts with any other letter that is not in the alphabet. It either starts with A or Z or any other letter in between. So Jesus says, look, don't fear. I'm going to show you some pictures of myself. And one of them is that I am the first letter, I'm the last letter, and I'm everything in between. So I'm good enough to handle your need. And I am so excited that you have joined us for this picture of Jesus. Today, our program is called The Alpha and the Omega. But the truth is, in the first book of the Bible, there's many other pictures. In the first chapter of Revelation, there's many other pictures. As on all the other books of the Bible, we have been given pictures of Jesus, while Revelation is filled with pictures of Jesus. And they're going to give you such hope that I hope you join us for each one of our programs on the pictures of Jesus in the book of Revelation, the fifth gospel. Well, we have added something very interesting to our series this time. We had added a section that we have called Ask the Expert. You know, I am so thankful that we have so many people have devoted their lives to studying the scripture. And now we are going to have a wonderful person that is a personal friend of mine, but she's also an expert on the book of Revelation. So she will be with us dialoguing and discussing the book of Revelation, all 12 programs on this series. And I am so excited, just so excited that she is with us today. So I am actually, I couldn't wait for this program. That's the very truth. I was telling her the other day, I can't wait for our time together. Her name is Dr. Kendra Haloviak Valentine, and actually I'm going to give you a hug because this is our first program and we're going to spend some time together, and I am so excited that Dr. Kendra Haloviak Valentine is with us, and I am sure you as the viewer will just have a fantastic time with the expert on Revelation. She's a PhD whose dissertation was on the book of Revelation, and but that's not the only reason why I brought her. I just think she has a lot to add to our program, and she's a fun person, and I'm just excited you're here.
I'm excited too. Thank you so much for this invitation.
Oh, you're welcome. And you know, I have learned so much about Revelation from you over the years. I don't know if you remember when I started the ministry about 13 years ago.
I remember.
You do remember?
When you invited me to your church?
Yes, and actually also to a ministerial meeting you came, and you explained Revelation in a way that I was like, wow, I want that type of understanding of the book of Revelation. And you have helped me a lot over the years, so I wanted you to know that.
Oh, I appreciate that.
One of the first things that you taught us was, what is this genre, apocalyptic genre, so that we can look at Revelation in the right way. So why don't you help us understand the genre of this book?
Well, I loved what you did at the beginning of the program by unveiling the crown on the cross. That was just beautiful because the word apocalypse means unveiling, revealing something. And so this idea of revealing some truth that is there, that is exactly why we have this title for this book, Revelation, Revealing.
Right. That's right.
So that was just beautiful. Apocalyptic literature, while it might be strange to us, was not strange when this book was being written.
And what was that? Around what time?
Around 100 AD. So typically the year 96 is attributed.
Okay.
And for over 200 years, this kind of literature had been written by Jewish people.
Okay, so they were used to
this, using symbolic language, like calling colors having meaning and numbers having meaning. They were used to that. And
maybe that's why apocalypse is so, Revelation or apocalyptic is so rich in pictures that are filled with colors and white and black and red. And
that's right.
That's what it is.
But what is unique about this book is that you have a Jewish scholar who is also a Christian. And so with this book, you have that Jewish apocalyptic literature with its symbolism, but now the focus is on the Lamb.
Well, first of all, let me say this to our viewers. Did you hear what Kendra just said? She says the focus is on the Lamb. And I have to, stop for a moment and tell you, you don't know how many seminars of Revelation I have heard that talked about many, many beasts and not once about the Lamb. And this is the revelation of the Lamb. And this is why we have put together, this is the cover actually of my next book on Revelation. It's called Revelation, the Fifth Gospel. And this is why this is the cover that was made for it, because actually the Lamb is the main reason why this book was written. And everything else in this symbolic apocalyptic genre has to do with the fact that the Lamb was victorious. So I was just so happy that you brought that up. This is about the Lamb. This is the main figure of this book.
The book begins the revelation of Jesus Christ. And we really shouldn't go to any other verse until we've spent time in that very first phrase.
Okay.
The revelation of Jesus Christ.
Let's do that.
As much as this is going to reveal all kinds of things, including scary things, this book is primarily the revelation of Jesus Christ, and it tells us that in its very first verse.
Let me read it for our viewers, and if you have a Bible at home, always pick it up when we start talking, because I think you're gonna see a lot of treasures here. Chapter 1, verse 1, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave to show to his bondservant the things which must soon take place, and he sent and communicated it to his angel, through his angel to his bondservant John. So the revelation of Jesus Christ.
Yes, and if you read a little bit further, we come to the first blessing or beatitude of this book. There are going to be 7 of them. That's an important number in the book of Revelation. But the first
I have to tell them why we're laughing. I have to tell them why we're laughing, because I sent her a list of things for this program, and there were 6 of them. I said, I need these 6 answers, including her phone number, things like that. And when she answered, she put a number 7, and she says, there should have been 7 when we talk about Revelation.
Absolutely. I didn't feel comfortable with 6.
So we have a lot of 7s in Revelation.
Lots of 7.
7 beatitudes.
That's correct. And one dissertation suggested there are 54 sets of 7s.
Wow.
I wish there were 49. That would have been perfect.
7 times 7.
But the first beatitude here in chapter 1, verse 3 says, "Blessed is the one who reads aloud." And I want to just pause there because it gives us a window into how this book was first experienced by believers. Most people couldn't read and write. So most people couldn't take this and take it to their room and read it. It was experienced in community. One person who was able to read would read it aloud, and then if you keep reading, it says, "And blessed are those who hear and who keep what is written in it, for the time is near." So you have a blessing to the person who's reading it aloud and to all those who are listening. And again, it gives us a window into how people first experienced the book of Revelation. And I would suggest that if we experienced it together with groups of people reading it and hearing it, it would be tremendously meaningful to us.
This, by the way, was one of the first experiences I had with you, when you had us read chapter 4 and 5 as a group.
In community.
And the different voices that were there. Just, this was so incredible. And I want to make a comment about what Kendra just said, that we together have studied in the last few series. You know, it's very interesting what she said, because people didn't really read, mainly the theologians read. And so in the Gospels, when Jesus talks to the scribes and Pharisees, he always says, "Have you not read?" But when he talks to the common people, he says, "Have you not heard?"
That's right.
So he used to make a difference because very few people read. And so when the Pharisees were on his case, it was like, "Didn't you read the scriptures?" But when the common people, they said, "He who has an ear, hear."
That's right.
So very, very wonderful point. And after we hear this, we imagine this community listening to this. Why was Revelation written? Were they going through hard times? What was going on?
You know, there's been quite a bit written about that in the last probably 20 years. For the longest time, we thought horrendous persecution was going on. Most Revelation scholars now don't think it was quite as severe as that, though there is a hint in the letter to Pergamum that there is someone who has been killed. But the vast majority of Revelation scholars, and those who are historians of the end of the 1st century, believe that it wasn't so much widespread persecution as it was the sense of apathy, that Christians were kind of connecting and assimilating into their culture and not seeing a distinction, not seeing that to worship Jesus, the Lamb, is to resist the beasts that are all around us. And so that it's a call to be intentional. Exactly right. And to be intentional about that. And it does make a difference even as one relates to one's own culture.
And we will see that a lot more in the 7 churches later on, how Jesus presents himself and says, okay, this is who I am. And he gives different descriptions of himself to each one of the churches depending on what they're going through.
That's right.
And I think those churches also have a little bit of spiritual stages we sometimes go through, that we're needing revelation of Jesus in one way or another. And he's going to reveal himself so strongly in the first chapter. I wanted to share with you something that caught my attention on verse 5 on chapter 1. It says, from Jesus Christ, the faithful witness, the firstborn of the dead, and the ruler of the kings of the earth. And then the verbal tenses. To him who loves us, and I love that present, and who has released us from our sins. I love the fact that he says, present, by the way, don't forget, he loves us right now. Past tense, he has released us from our sins. And then he starts talking about he's coming in the clouds, and then we get the first red letters of this book. So why did Jesus choose those first Alpha and Omega as the first identification picture of himself?
Well, it's what you said at the beginning of the program, that idea that I am the beginning and I'm the end. And the end is good news because Jesus is there. And so we don't need to be afraid. At the end of this chapter 1, after what could be a kind of scary first vision, flowing white hair and a sword coming out of the mouth and all of this that's kind of disturbing, Jesus, the figure of Jesus, the one like the Son of Man, puts his hand on the shoulder of John the Revelator, and he says, do not be afraid.
Do not be afraid.
Do not be afraid. And I just believe that that's the approach we need to have to this amazing final book of Scripture, is do not be afraid.
You know, my good friend Mike Tucker, who we have done a lot of programs together, he always says that there's 365 times in the Bible that we're reminded, don't be afraid. One per day of the of the year, because I guess we are very fearful people, and unfortunately, this book has been used a lot to give fear to people, and it has been written for the opposite.
Absolutely. To
bring assurance, to bring a view of Jesus, and to say, don't be afraid. And so this apocalyptic genre that has all those symbols that you say sometimes are scary, you are saying that they would have identified in the first century as something they would have known.
Absolutely. And that's why I don't think it's appropriate to say we're going to decode this book. I don't think that's proper language, because I don't think it was something that you had to decode. I think that it's something that the symbolism would have jumped out at you as meaningful, like lamb is for us, packed with meaning of sacrifice and innocence and a willingness to give one's life. All those rich meanings of lamb, I would say that those very obvious everyday meanings of the other symbols should also be part of our reading of the book of Revelation.
You know, one of the first things I remember that you taught me 13 years ago, you know, I'm getting old. You're not getting old, but I'm getting was don't decode Revelation. You said it's not a book that you say, okay, lamb is Jesus. So every time I see lamb, I'm going to say, okay, that's Jesus, so I figure that out. You said, no, let the richness of the picture of the lamb. Sometimes the lamb is slain. Sometimes the lamb is a shepherd. Sometimes the lamb is victorious. Sometimes the lamb is warring. Sometimes, you know, all these things, and let the whole picture sink in, because the symbol is so much more than, okay, I'm going to decode this book. And which unfortunately is one of the main methods that a lot of people have used when explaining Revelation, and they have missed the lamb. Now, going directly to the ending of the first part of that we are discussing, right away on verse 7, we get this, behold, he's coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him. And this is even before we get the red letters. And those of you that have Bibles that have red letters, you know that these are words of Jesus, attributed to Jesus. On verse 8, I am the Alpha and the Omega that we just discussed. Why do we have this, he's coming in the clouds, and don't forget all of this? And then Jesus goes, yes, by the way, I'm the A and the Z. Why do we need to know about the second coming right there from the very beginning?
This book is not linear. This book is not saying you have to wait until the end to have the second advent. We're reminded of that at the very beginning. And I would say the same thing about the different worship scenes. The worship scenes are not all at the end. They come all throughout the book. And it seems to me it's a reminder for all of us in our journeys that we don't worship only at the end. We must worship every day.
Yeah, we have to start right now
Exactly.
because we already know the end of the story.
Exactly.
Yes. I remember you teaching us that Revelation has so many dimensions, you know, heaven and earth, and it, like you just said, it's not linear.
Right.
It has all this, you know, how can we help people that are wanting to study Revelation to understand that this is not a line, that they have to go up and down, and they have to allow the symbols to come in and the apocalyptic language to sink in, and the dualistic view, you know, the two cities, Jerusalem and Babylon, and the two women, and you know, how can we help them to say, okay, don't forget this is a particular genre, like a poetic genre.
Right. Precisely.
Or a list, you said one time a list of groceries. You would say 2,000 years from now, somebody found it, would say, what kind of genre is this? Eggs, milk, tomato.
Exactly.
It's a genre of shopping list.
Exactly.
Well, this is a particular genre, and they understood it. So what does this mean to you, and how can we help people to say, wow, this is really amazing hope?
I think that for me, to think of time as layered is really helpful. I know some people want to make time charts out of the book of Revelation, but I think if you can just sit and appreciate when you say, worthy is the Lamb that was slain, to realize at that moment that I'm at the foot of the cross, but I'm also sitting here next to you right now with my Bible.
That's right.
And we're also, in a very real way, going to say that before the throne of God at the end of time. So that to allow the richness of time and space to be part of the experience of the book of Revelation, rather than try, it's going to be only frustrating if you try to map it out. But if you can sit in the richness of that, worthy is the Lamb that was slain. Am I in heaven when I say that? Am I here on earth when I say that? It seems to me the answer is yes.
You know, many years ago when I was studying in the corporate world, they told us, if you can ever learn to think with the genius of the and instead of the tyranny of the or, you will see how much more there is.
That's right.
And I can see that a lot of people in Revelation have done the or. Is this or that? And you're saying,
That's
no.
Very good point.
Is that and that and that and that.
Yes.
And all of that is all of it.
Yes.
You told me you wrote a poem on the first chapter of Revelation.
I did. One of the things that I've done when I've gone through the book is to just sit with certain sections, to just sit there and pray over them, or ask God about, help me understand better the richness of this scene. And so I did that with the first chapter, and it kind of encouraged me to do it with some of the others as well. And I'm referring to the vision of the one like the Son of Man here in chapter 1. And so, being a little troubled by it, I created a prayer. It's just a humble prayer. I would.
All right. That would
Holy
be
God, the apocalypse starts the revelation of Jesus Christ. But instead, I meet a man with strange eyes and hair and feet. His speaking sounds like a loud waterfall. And when I look closely at his mouth in order to hear him better, I'm terrified. There's a sword. And I join John on the floor. Who wants a conversation with a sword? Is it meant for me? For all the times I mess up? For my confusion? For my fears of failure, of being alone, of not being happy, of an agonizing death, of an unspeakable loss, of confining spaces, including small thoughts and closed-minded communities? Is the sword meant for me? Do not be afraid. What? Do not be afraid. Really? Do not be afraid.
What an incredible poem. This is a prayer that I want to leave with you today. It's a poem that she wrote trying to relate to the book of Revelation.
Exactly.
And the final message was, Do not
be afraid.
Be afraid. I want to thank Dr. Kendra Haloviak Valentine. This is so much fun, and we're going to have a fantastic time. And I want to leave you with some final thoughts, and I'm going to move to my little prop table over there. But, oh, Kendra, I am so glad we're doing this because you're bringing such richness and soul by sharing your poem. Thank you so much for that and for being here. And to our viewers, I want to tell you a few things just to wrap it up. And what I want to tell you is that, you know, we all go through things and we are fearful and we have situations. But there is one thing here in the book of Revelation, in chapter 1, verse 7 and 8. Behold, he's coming with the clouds, and I'm the Alpha and the Omega. I'm the A and the Z. I'm all of it. And then it says this, who is and who was and who is to come. Now, I want to just take 3 arrows because, you know, the truth is sometimes we're afraid of the past. Many of us are afraid of the past, things that have happened to us, things that have gone wrong in our lives. I have had a lot of things in my past that I could be fearful for. He says, okay, let's settle this. First of all, I'm the one who was. So if you look back, says Jesus, you're going to find me. I'm the one who was. Well, how about if we are afraid of the present? Oh, says Jesus, I'm the one who is. So if you're getting a little scared of what's happening in heaven and well, how can you relate to God? Oh, Jesus says, okay, there's an arrow going that way too. I'm the one who is. And how about the future? How many of us are not scared of the future? You know, it's easy to get scared of the future. Sometimes you lose your job. Sometimes you lose a relationship and you go, well, what's going to happen in the future? Well, Jesus says, I'm the one who is to come. You find me everywhere, says Jesus. I'm the one who was, and I'm the one who is, and I'm the one who is to come. So there's no direction you can look in your life when you're crossing the street, says Jesus, in your own soul, that you're not going to find me. As a matter of fact, says Jesus, I am the Alpha and the Omega. And if that wasn't good enough to give you the full picture, says Jesus, let me tell you this. I'm the one who was, and the one who is, and I'm the one who is to come. So I got the whole thing covered. There's nothing, no direction you can look that you're not going to find me, says Jesus. So don't be afraid. So today, as you open the book of Revelation and sit with it, remember this. He is the A and the Z. He's the Alpha and he's the Omega. He's the one who was and the one who is and the one who is to come. And you know what? He's everything. And so that's why you can live this life without fear, even in the middle of things we don't fully understand. Thank you so much for joining us in Jesus 101, and we'll see you next time.